All right, welcome back, everybody, to another show of Flyway Connections. My name is Chris. I'm here with my buddy Joe. Joe.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, today I'll be going by my last name, Spears,
Yeah,
because our special guest is former Lieutenant Platoon Leader in the 82nd Airborne, a flyway connoisseur, and a DIY dog trainer. Hey, Joe Myers. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, flyway connoisseur, huh? That's got a nice ring to it.
I mean, you've hunted almost all the flyways already.
Yeah, I like
that. You a West Pointer?
I'm not, actually. I went to Oregon State. Let's go, Beavs. Come on.
Go Beavs.
Big dance this year, guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
God, and you would live where now?
I live just outside Austin.
Okay, so he's one of those guys that moved from the West Coast.
That's West Coast transplants. I know I hear it all the time, man. I talk to Texans all the time, and they're like, "Oh man, these Californians," and I'm just like hiding my face.
It's only a little bit different.
It's only a matter of time before they realize that it's not just Californians, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's all cool, man. So basically, for this show, we're just gonna go ahead and talk. I know I got a couple questions. I know a lot of people want to hear your DIY. I messed this up. DIY, do it yourself.
DIY. Do it yourself.
Oh, DIY training stuff. That stuff always confuses me. Yeah. I used to call, when I was a young private, I called PMCS PMS for a long time.
I believe that.
I believe that.
I was like, fuck, I gotta go PMS this fucking truck. I gotta quack that one out too. So, but anyways, first thing I wanted to ask, as far as questions and stuff, as far as your first dog,
yeah,
what stage do you typically like? And this is from your experience. You're not the guys at Honey Break or whatever, but
sure,
you obviously have proven stuff that's worked. But as far as like the routine, what stage is there? Like a stage of life you want to start doing routines with them, like getting a puppy and then first teaching them to sit or house train or whatever?
Yeah, I think so. Like, really good question. So, in looking through, I've got two dogs. First of all, my first one is trained very well. The second one, different pedigree. He doesn't quite have the affinity as the first one does. So there's a little bit of learning curve there on my side, and just like you live and learn. He's great dog, great family dog. First dog, fantastic hunting dog. So I think the way that I've approached it for both of them really is like much slower than like if you were to get a lab, if you were to pick up a lab that had some drive and you were to say go through something that like the Southern Oaks Kennels guys put out, they do Gun Dog Academy, and those guys take their dogs through like really quickly. I mean, compared to like a relatively novice dog trainer. So for me, it's like number one, just get the dog to be obedient, right? Like, and that's like the long and short of the beginning of their gun dog training as well. Theirs is just a little bit expedited. So it took me probably, I would say like a year. I mean, Sparrows and I had a deployment like early in my dog's life. So kind of just by nature of the fact that I was out of the country, I didn't actually get to start running drills with him or really teaching him the hold and the other like hard skills, hunting skills, until we got back. So he's probably 15 months by the time I started actually doing like hunt training. But the flip side of that is, of course, that we got to do a lot of obedience training. My wife worked with him on obedience before we got back from the deployment. So that was huge.
That's okay. It makes sense. So yeah. I actually just got a lab. So I'm trying to work with him, but I'm basically, he knows I'm kind of new to waterfowl. I just fell in love with it last year, and I'm gonna do it again this year. But yeah, I got a dog, and I'm trying to work with him, but I'm house training him now. He's about 11 weeks.
Yeah,
so he's not too old.
That's a great stage, man. Like nurture the drive.
Yeah,
and teach him to be obedient. That's it.
So the question I actually have a question. So, well, all these are questions, but as far as when did you actually first when is a good age for them to go to the field?
Like in the field, like on the hunt?
Yeah, or just to actually just get out there to feel it.
Man, I've seen dudes take their dogs out like very young. And so I think as far as like introducing the dog to a shot, just so that they're not gun shy, like I did that relatively young. Like we would go to the shot, the clay target,
clay target range.
Just take them out, get them used to seeing things fly and breaking clays, and get them used to the gunfire. I was doing that before we went on the deployment, so that was, it's hard to say. He was months old, right? So this was not post deployment, so he was used to the gunfire before that. As far as taking him out and actually doing the hunt, he was literally an adult dog before I took him out with other people. And the first several times I took him out, it was with Joe Meyer.
Yeah.
And we were doing actually a lot of upland hunting out in North Carolina at the time. So he just got used to birds on the land before he really got used to doing anything in the water, which I think for him was a good way to go.
Yeah, because we quail hunted him quite a bit.
Yeah, we quail hunted and those kind of canned pheasant hunts as well. And, and then I did a tower shoot, 1 or 2 tower shoots with him to try to get him steady to shot. So I think if those are resources that new gun dog owners have, especially the tower shoots, frankly, because I could have done more of that with my dog to get him more steady to shot. Like, dude, those are great opportunities. If it costs, $50, $100, I mean, you got to think like the return on that sort of investment. Whereas like buying a finished gun dog versus like what it costs to get a finished gun dog, it's so much cheaper. Honestly, man, if you have access, like I said, to like tower hunts and some land that other people are training on, running drills on, absolutely worth it. And that's I had access to that out in North Carolina, so that was really, really helpful.
Nice. So as far as the breed, does breed really make a difference? Or would you say from your experience, not saying just from your experience?
Like breed of dogs, so like Labrador,
just breed of dogs.
Yeah. So I can't speak to any other dogs other than Labradors, but I chose Labradors. Well, first of all, because they were some family dogs. Growing up, I had Labs. And second of all, just because like they have that natural drive to go retrieve a bird. And I don't know about other dogs. Certainly, like I've worked with some pointers that wanted to retrieve as well. Obviously, primarily they're pointing upland. But if you want like the full package of the dog wants to get in the water bad and it wants to chase ducks down, like, and it has that hard drive, for me, I don't know if there's any other dog that really is gonna get the bang for your buck. But that, that's not, of course, the conversation goes much deeper than that, between like Asian American labs and just like their demeanor and like what they want to do between the two. Like I said, I'm certainly no expert. Both of mine are American labs, and one of them, the drive is so high, and he's a really great dog, honestly.
Yeah. So what do you think about?
Go ahead.
What do you think about pedigree though? Like the actual lineage of the dog. Is that real big difference, or? I
think, like I said, my experience, I've got 2 from the same breeder. First one, just much higher retrieve drive. So that actually another good question and another real big piece of advice. I think definitively Pedigree Matters. Anybody that trained a dog would tell you so. So really the point there is that if you have the opportunity to go see the litter and observe the dogs, so like for a lot of people, they'll like put money down on a litter, right, with a breeder, and then they'll have, depending on what pick they are, like they'll go pick out the dog. But beforehand, if you can observe the behavior of the dogs, so say your first pick, black male, you're in a really good position. Go check out the black males and look for the one with the highest drive, right? That's one way to do it. I was with my first dog, Archie. He's fox red, and I was second pick, yellow male, and the first pick, his brother Gunner is like and like a very accomplished like field trial dog. So their pedigree is really phenomenal, and actually she's bred Gunner several times. My breeder bred Gunner several times and produces just great litters with that dog. Whereas my second dog, I was living out in Texas. I was like, oh, well, I'll just go with the same thing that I've got. And I didn't get to observe him. He was one of a huge litter. There was like a hurricane rolling through. It was just a really weird time, so I didn't get to go like actually observe him. Anyway, he just doesn't have the natural affinity like the other dog does. So I think it certainly pedigree matters, and if you can go observe the dogs and pick the one that you feel like is going to go get that bird with a lot of enthusiasm.
Now, Boone, for people who don't know, is first dog, Archibus.
All American.
Boone. Archibus. I've never hunted with Boone. I've hunted with Archibus plenty. Like, that dog's awesome.
Yeah.
But Boone has done retrieves, and he'll hunt, but he's just, he wants to be just hanging out with you more.
Oh yeah, I think so. This is kind of like how I've explained him in the past. Is like Archie is like your athlete child that just like the all-star, and then Boone's like the one that's going to go out play baseball, but sometimes you'll see him out in the field picking dandelions, right? he just gets like off topic. He's like he'll do it, but he's not super stoked about it like the other dog is. So they're certainly, new, like relatively young trainer, you get new challenges every time, I'm sure. And so that's just like, that's what I've got. He's a great guy. He really he'll go get birds. But he's not like on like Archie. Archie's scanning the sky. He's anxious to go get the birds. If we drop several birds, he'll run blinds. Like, so, and Boone just, he, as far as like running blinds, he just wouldn't be interested, frankly. Like he's not super interested in it. So different dogs, man. Pedigree.
So as far as like training them for the field, is there visual contact with them, or is there like words that you say to get them to retrieve, or they just know once that bird it's dropping, it's going?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the situation, right? I think for a finished gun dog, obviously the number one thing is that you drop that they don't see fall. So you have to do blinds, and so they're relying heavily on sound and visual sight to stop on whistle and take a hand signal to get onto the bird, to get onto the scent, essentially. So definitely it's kind of like the full package, right? That's what it takes to get to a finished gun dog, is that you have to have them trained to all of those scenarios. I think one thing that like Archie showed a lot of promise really early on when Joe and I were doing some upland hunting. He'd go retrieve a bird, and then on command, we'd whistle stop him, and then I'd give him a hand signal. He'd drop that bird and go get a different one, right? So that's pretty cool stuff to be able to see your dog like know what's taking precedence in that moment, right? Because if you cripple a bird and it's getting away, but he's got one in his mouth, you want him to go get the one that's crippled, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when you said so they really just follow scent. So let's just say I'm training my dog. He can retrieve, because right now, like, I don't really know what to do, but he does retrieve. I have like little duck toys for him. He gets it and he brings it back. It's, now, do I know if he's going to do that action in the field? He'll probably embarrass me, and Joe will probably shoot my dog. I don't know. Or Spears will probably shoot my dog. I don't know. But I mean, Spears are like literally like, I don't know. I think it was like a 5-second reaction where he's going to point his gun at my boat and shoot it and leave me there.
Backstory to that. What was it? What you were talking about taking your plug out or shooting you were gonna do something. I was like, yeah, I'll shoot your boat and just leave.
No, it was that bird that's like, yeah, that's absolutely illegal. I'll shoot your boat and leave you here. I was like, but it's your boat. He goes, that's fine. I was like, that's not cool, man.
Oh, it was a grebe.
It was. I was like, I thought we were gonna be Prince of Poaching or something.
No.
Yo, GW's out there. We're joking. So
I'll tell you what, Chris. It sounds 11 weeks old. There's not a lot to do with the dog other than what you're doing, right? Like get it used to chasing down bumpers or whatever it likes. It's something that actually Joe Sparrows taught me is like, if you've got if you got duck feathers lying around, get them kind of used to the scent. That's always pretty cool. Just because, of course, they're really drawn to that compared to a bumper that smells like, whatever they're made out of. So there's that. I think one thing that I learned from the guys at Southern Oaks with their Gun Dog Academy, they take their dogs pretty much like everywhere. They're young dogs. They just get them used to being around people, being around new environments. And I think that's super, super good advice, right? Because what you want to do is get your dog used to being around as many people in as many situations as you can, because it's going to be a really complex situation for a dog, right? When you're in a blind, and especially if you're on public land hunting and you see some random dudes walking about and you don't want your dog to get defensive. You want him to just sit there, wait for the hunt to start taking place, right? So he's got to be comfortable walking around in a marsh, sitting on a stand, doing nothing for a while, being patient. And like that, those are kind of skills that dogs learn if you just have them out and about in the world. They get used to seeing people. They get used to not being defensive. They get used to like literally sitting around for an hour and doing nothing because they're being an obedient dog while you're doing whatever humans do, talking to people, right? So that's another thing that would probably be great for your dog if you have the ability to take them out and about, Home Depot or whatever. If Home Depot still, they still allow dogs, even if they don't take them in.
Yeah. So so I actually do that. I mean, he follows me. I haven't put a leash on him till this day. I've had him for like a month.
Yeah.
That was another thing, because I was scared if I leashed him, he was gonna want to get away, because I don't know. I just feel like, because I've had dogs before, but they were all house dogs, so we use leashes. Do you leash train them?
Yeah, that's a really that's a tough one for me personally. I think definitely you put a dog on a lead, because if there's real risk to the dog, and then if there's not, I'm not sure if there's any reason to, unless you're literally training, right? So like heel training is helpful if you have a lead, always, really, even if you're doing e-collar training. So for my dogs, I'll keep them off leash literally as much as I possibly can. And I'll keep them on an e-collar as often as the situation calls for. So if we're training, they've got an e-collar on. They know that if I put an e-collar on, it's time. It means business, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just dogs. That's just how they respond once they're trained to e-collar. But as far as the leash, your dog is, because it's a Labrador and it's been around you, and like you're giving it everything that it wants, right? Like your lab's reward is going to retrieve. So the more you give it a retrieve, the more loyal it's going to be, and your dog's not going to jet probably. Like, of course, you have to do something like a certain amount of training for it not to chase squirrels and raccoons or whatever or what have you. But I think the risk of your dog like running away is very, very low, just because Labradors generally don't. They're very loyal. They want to stick around. So I can take my dogs outside and they don't like run off or anything.
Yeah, I mean, even at him, I don't take him outside. As far as like chasing stuff, I mean, I saw a crow punk him this morning for his food, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't feel so good about that. I was like, come on, man, that's a bird.
Dude,
yeah, it was a little rough, but I mean, as far as like staying with me, he's fine. I've walked him I had a hunting lease down in Anacoco, Louisiana when I was down there, and I took him out with me when he was young. He just walked with me. Because I had to take down all my cams and my blinds and stuff. So I had to take a tree stand down and trail cam down.
Good time to just mention, especially like here in Texas. Obviously, I'm living in Central Texas. You're living in North Texas. Really, anywhere there's going to be a lot of snakes. Like that, I will say, of course, is like one of those situations in which, if you've got a lead or you got a leash, do whatever you got to do. I know there are some dogs that are snake trained, right? So two things that you can do, obviously, is train your dog to snake train it, which I haven't done with either of my dogs because we were coming from out of state, and then I was just too lazy to do it with the second one. The second thing is get a snake bite vaccine. So my dogs have had the snake bite vaccine, and technically I don't think the snake bite vaccine is not like I mean, it will probably save their life, but if they get a snake bite, it's probably going to be pretty,
Bad.
it's a lot of damage, right? If you've seen
Yeah.
the snake bite victim,
Yeah, I've seen it.
retrievers, like they'll lose an eye because it's usually on their nose. Because what are they doing? They're sniffing around for it. They get onto the scent and then they get close, and snakes don't like it when dogs get close to them, so they bite their face. So that's definitely a good thing to do right up front. It really as early as you can if you're going to be in the sort of environment where snakes like to just bathe in the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I didn't even know there was a snake bite vaccine. I think I'm gonna get that next.
Yeah, check it out.
I don't know what age you can get it, but
I don't either. Something that helps with that sort of stuff is we have pet insurance for both the dogs, which is great. They do crazy stuff sometimes. Like one time, Archie ate 5 pounds of food, 5 pounds of kibble at the neighbor's house, and he was about to explode. And I was like, I thought he had bloat. I was like, I have no idea what to do with him. And so that saved us a lot of money, of course, like trips to the ER and stuff. Totally worth it, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got insurance for him too.
Nice.
But so here's the kind of off topic. It was something that's kind of been going in my head. I should have started with this, but Joe told me a story. We kind of have the similar situation, except you went all out.
Oh yeah.
You first found out he duck hunted. You first got into duck hunting. You went all out. How much did you spend?
Oh man.
That first season? Bro. Yeah.
I spent at least 2,500, probably closer to $3,000.
No, more than that, bud. Dog.
I bought that shotgun. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. So
dog, shotgun, waders.
It would buy the dog, right? So there's $2,000.
$2,000 in a shotgun.
It was like 5.
So what got you into duck hunting? Because when I met you, I picked up a waterfowl magazine that you had in the office, and that's kind of how it started.
Dude, I'm so glad you remember how it started. So first of all, I grew up in Oregon, suburb of Portland, had dogs all my life. I'm super passionate about training dogs. I love hanging around dogs. When I was a kid, my favorite book was Where the Red Fern Grows. And so I was asking my parents, that's what I wanted to do when I was a little kid. I have no hunters in my family. I was like, man, I want to move to the Ozarks and go hunt raccoons with some hounds. Can we do that? And they were like, no, absolutely not. And I get it now. Like, I don't want to move to the Ozarks either and hunt raccoons. But so like when the time came around where I was like, you know what, like I've been out on my own for a while, like maybe I should revisit this hunting thing. Because I was thinking about getting a dog, right? And what it was, I'm a soldier, so what I want more than like a dog with a purpose. And so that's really what got me like thinking about it. But also just the lifestyle, right? And so I asked when I got to the office one day, I had a magazine. I asked, "Hey, does anybody duck hunt or anything like that?" And like the stars that align for Joe Sparris, right? Because he's like, "Oh, I've been waiting for someone to want to duck hunt because that's all I want to do." And so that's the history of it. So I can't remember like the sequence of like how I bought stuff. But I was like, I literally just went all out. I was like, oh, well, he's going to train me, so I'm just going to go get everything. But not just like a little bit, right? Like, what do? I'm going to go buy a $2,000 shotgun. I'm going to go like invest 15 years of my life in a dog. Like, that's just like kind of our personalities. Joe Sparris, you know what I'm talking about. We've got friends. We've got friends like, we've got friends like that just like, we don't do anything halfway. Like, I got to do it all the way.
Yeah. So with the shotgun though, and I was telling him, like, me and you both, we've gone through some shotguns, my man.
Yeah, we have.
What was it? I mean, if you want like your first shotgun, and especially because this shows a lot of this podcast is revolved on the newer hunters, guys trying to get into waterfowl.
Sure.
At the time, you were shooting a Benelli Super Eagle 2.
Yeah.
Joe Sparris was shooting a Mossberg 500 pump.
Yeah. On birds.
Yeah, and was killing birds. Do you feel like jumping into a high-end shotgun was a mistake at the beginning, or do you wish you kind of did your homework a little bit on the different brands of shotguns?
First of all, Benellis are fantastic shotguns. I think if I could go back, I would probably start on a pump, because that's essentially like the path I took back. Like I like essentially started at the nice shotgun and worked my way back to a Remington 870 Express, right? Um, just to get a feel for like what it's like to start off with something like that. Also, just in the spirit of saving money, because I know a lot of people, presumably a lot of people listening to this, don't have $2,000 sitting around to go buy a Super Black Eagle 3 today. And so really, like, the number one thing that I learned from that is just like from working my way back to a pump and then back to an autoloader. So that's like, dude, it kind of doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
it matters how well you how well you shoot a shotgun. Like, if like the round's going to cycle for the most part with an auto loader, right? And it's going to cycle for the most part with a pump if you don't put rusty shells in, right? So start with what makes sense, which is probably something on the lower end of the price range. And the good news is, like you were saying, we've been through plenty of shotguns. We've exchanged a lot of text messages about shotguns. Like, what's my perspective? Like, there's some great shotguns in like the $500-$600 range, pump shotguns that I'll never get rid of. Specifically, the BPS.
Yeah.
So like I think the world of some of the lower end pump shotguns.
Well, even like a BPS, like I think I paid $820 out the door when I bought mine.
I paid $600 for mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one thing that kind of helped me, because so Joe tried to get me the first year I went down there to Fort Polk. He's like, "Hey man, let's go duck hunt." I was like, yeah, we'll see. Because I was all, I want to go do this. I want to go deer hunt, big game hunt, whatever. And I didn't kill nada.
Dude.
Nada. It was bad. So I finally, Joe is like, he had asked me again. I was like, you know what, let's go. I didn't have a shotgun. He let me use his Benelli Nova. I ended up buying it off of him, but he let me use that. And we didn't kill anything, but man, right when we left, I went to buy waders. I was almost this close to buying a shotgun. But he's like, the best, he told me, he's like, the best shotgun is the one that goes bang. So after that, like, I was like, okay, well, and then he eventually was selling his. So I bought his and we kind of went from there. And I mean, like he said, like, I think you can kill birds as long as it goes bang. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. I think like they're doing pretty cool stuff with shotgun. Like, not to say that there aren't some shotguns that are easier to shoot, right? Like, because some of the big names nowadays are like, what, they shoot 20 gauge Benellis. Why? Because it's light. You can toss
28 gauges even.
You can toss that thing around. Like, are you going to miss a bird that decoys? Probably not ever. But is that to say that you should go do that? No, not necessarily. Go get a feel for the sport. Yeah, man. I mean, as far as the switch from big game to duck, like, if you like getting up early, you like being outside, and you like being, relatively dirty all the time, it's a great sport, man. Like, especially for us veterans, I think there's so much that resonates with the sport about this sport with us, especially even really compared to like big game hunting, right? We have another friend, Nick, that was a big game guy, and he loves hunting birds now, right? And Joe turned him on to birds. So there's a lot of overlap between just the lifestyle, kind of like a patrolling lifestyle, and getting out and hunting birds, right? So it's funny too, like just because, like, for people like us, we're like, when we're out, we're hunting, we're out there hunting. And so if you bring somebody who's never like been in the military and like pulled security and done this and that, it's kind of like, is he paying attention to this? I'm like, is he? Because I'm taking guys out too now, right? I'm taking guys out that never served, and it's a great thing to do. It's a great sport to spread to as many people as you can. But there's just like we have like an affinity for it as it is, because somebody taught us how to do it and we didn't even really get it. We didn't even know that. Of course, there's still a learning curve, like when you first start going out solo, right? Going out solo duck hunting is still not that comfortable of a thing, because it's like, okay, it's 3 a.m. I don't know anybody and I'm by myself out here. And it's like, okay, like, is it safe out here? Like, what with these guys over here, right? Like, why are they out here? It's like, oh, they're out here for the same reason I am. So the sport's blowing up too, man. Like, I don't know if that's your guys' experience, but certainly here in Central Texas, which is not even necessarily like on a main part of the flyway, like it's blowing up. I don't know if it's like that where you guys are.
Have you?
Yeah, Louisiana's always.
Yeah. Have you ever came up north to hunt?
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to remember what that
like North Texas.
Yeah, we went up to the Mallard opener last year up there.
Oh, Texacoma?
Man, it was a lake.
Ray Roberts.
I don't know.
You know where it's by?
Yeah. It's by an Air Force base. Let me think on it because I'll get back to you. I literally went up there last year. And the thing was, obviously there's like there's not a lot of public hunting land in Texas, right?
Yeah.
So the public land that you go to is usually kind of crowded, or there's just a lot of competition. So we went up there. It was like the dumbest thing that we've ever done. We went up there and learned, long story short, that where we were hunting, which was a reservoir, you really needed a boat. So where we hunt, there's a lot of walk-in. The water gets up to like your waist at the deepest. Down here outside of Austin, and certainly down on the Texas coast in the marsh. But up there, like everybody had a boat and we didn't have a boat. And so we couldn't hunt, right? Because if we dropped birds, I can't remember for what. Oh, I couldn't bring my dog because of where we were staying. It was just like a perfect disaster.
Yeah.
So I have hunted up there. Really, probably the least success I've ever had. I know now how to do it next time I go up there. What about you?
No, so this year will be my first time actually hunting. I have a friend of mine who's duck hunted here.
Yeah.
And he's kind of tried to get me into it too. And I kind of blew him off for a while because I didn't want to duck hunt. But once I fell in love with it, I got in contact with him. He's like, yeah, man, let's go. And I'll probably hunt. There's a Lake Texacoma, like Texacoma. It's like Texas, Oklahoma lake.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a reservation there, like a waterfowl reservation. I was telling him they have like a strictly quail hunting there. So, then they have
when you can do like a combo hunt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they got one over there by Corsicana. There's two of them. I actually went to go check it out. I forgot what they're called, but it's a marsh. You can actually walk in there, and there's actually no boats allowed. So when you waterfowl hunt, it's just strictly you're walking, or you can take a canoe or kayak or whatever. That's it. So
let's do it.
Yeah, I'm down. I told it's 2 hours away from me, so it's probably in the middle between us. It's right next to Corsicana. It's huge. Once we get done here, I'll send you a link to it and send Joe. Maybe Joe come up and get a hunt.
Oh yeah.
Because from you, it's like 3 hours away from you, so it's not.
I know exactly where you're talking about though. If it's near Corsicana, I know there's some public land around there.
Yeah, it's like two of them, two big ones. There's they have one that's just a straight youth waterfowl hunting, and then they have one that's. I went out there. I told him, I was like, man, I saw spoonbills, I saw ringnecks, I saw and obviously I saw a lot of coots, but I mean I'm still gonna shoot those. But
Coot City,
Coot City. But, so Joe Myers, from your the last 5 years, you've hunted every single flyway, right?
Yeah.
You've hunted Central, Pacific. Yeah.
Dude, what's
your favorite one?
Dude, that's a good question too. And so I've had the most success. Well, I've hunted the most here in Texas. So I guess it would be considered the Central Flyway because it's really down on the coast, right? We hunt a lot of teal. Teal are huge down here. We go to Matagorda Bay, and man, it's kind of hit or miss, but when it's on, it's really on, man. Honestly, the birds are always there, but whether or not you're gonna have a good day is really just kind of outside of your control. But where I enjoyed hunting most was probably the West Coast. So, of course, you and I hunted out in North Carolina, which was fun. I was new to hunting then, so not a lot of success. Then I moved to Oregon for a year before I moved down here to Austin. And so while I was out in Oregon, I got to hunt on the coast near Tillamook Bay, and that was super cool. I was hunting buffleheads out there, and they're really cool little birds. I mean, they're small, but they're really cool, man. Like they just skim across the water, right? And it's kind of hard to see because they're black and white. And if it's a cloudy day out there, they're really hard to see against the water. But they'll decoy, man. It's really cool. So that was really fun doing that. And then there's some other places down near the Klamath River Basin in Southern Oregon that are amazing. I mean, stop over for the birds. There were thousands of birds, and not a lot of competition. So I think just some of those parts are just like so remote. The nature of the fact that they're so remote, and if the Cascades get a lot of like precipitation, the roads into and out of can be pretty sketchy. So of course, anybody going that way, just be prepared as far as snow tires, etc. Because you kind of get out of cell reception. It can get kind of hairy if you don't really know what you're doing. So anyhow, those two places were amazing, honestly. And so Archie and I, he was 2.5 when we moved to Oregon, and that he really he was cutting teeth in Oregon, man. That's when he really became like a finished dog, was when we were out there. So when we moved down to Texas, he was good to go. When we go down the coast like 7 times, maybe a half dozen times a year. And he just loves it, man. Of course, there's gators down there, so it's a little bit sketchy during teal, but still, take him down there. And like I said, the Texas coast is really fun. I mean, you can get, if you are down there, like right as like a front rolls in, man, we got some really cool mixed bags there. I mean, you can limit out. We were nearly limited when we were with like 5 people. Spoonies, teal by the dozens. I mean, there's a lot of cool birds coming in there. Pintail, certainly. But of course, and then lastly, as far as like the Mississippi Flyway, hunting out in Arkansas with you, Joe.
Yeah, that was an interesting week or 2 days actually.
When you drive through that part of Arkansas, like especially for people that are really passionate about this sport, like it's nuts, dude. Like your heart stops because there are so many birds. And so for somebody like me, I'd never been around birds by the tens of thousands until I went to Arkansas. And it's kind of crazy because it's like, oh, they're not all just going to come to where I am. Hey, right. So like it's still the sport, like you're still in pursuit. And so like, obviously I love that about this sport is that the pursuit is part of the fun. But honestly, man, that it was an interesting trip because of how many birds there were there and how few we got.
Yeah. I mean, and that goes a good, so we went there on a guided trip. It was an actual Val and Honor sponsored trip. And I'm not gonna mention any guys' names. I've never in my life have been in a field where I've had so many birds, but didn't kill that many. And it really wasn't even due to bad shooting.
No.
I would say it was more to bad setups. And for the viewers, like when you get guides, and we preach guides a lot in this show, man, you got to do your homework. 90% of guides are really good, awesome dudes with awesome setups. This one was maybe at one time a really good guide service, but nature of the beast, people get lazy.
Yeah.
And when you're hunting waterfowl ain't stupid, man. They're born in Canada, fly all the way down to Arkansas, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Get bombarded. They fly the gauntlet Like it's not even a flyway; it's a gauntlet of guys getting up at 2 a.m. to shoot at you with shotguns. So by the time they get down to Arkansas and Mississippi, they're educated birds. I mean, they have PhDs on survivability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of birds that we've seen. I mean,
yeah.
We did shoot some. I'm not going to say we didn't shoot a lot. I remember any. But I mean, you got your first mallard, your first nice drake that day.
Yeah, seriously, man. My first mallard. Oh man, it's a beautiful bird too. I want to get it mounted. I don't know if you guys can see the pintail right here, but that's the single band I've got.
The banded, I was about to say the banded pintail. Also that day was, we talked about dogs. Is you have to have, I mean, for new guys going to, guys you're doing yourself. I mean, you gotta know you, and you gotta know your dog. Your dog's, it's kind of like a piece of equipment. Like you have to know how to use it, and you have to be honest. That day, that guy, I mean, we lost quite a bit of birds because of a dog that wasn't not a bad dog, but it was hunting. It was hunted past its prime.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, certainly, I think it was Joey dropped a teal that was literally like right here with us, right? That got away. And then I dropped a snow that was like not that far away that, my dog would have chased down in no time. But I think that's a good point that you made for newer hunters. Of course, it's like definitely know your limitations, right? If you're going to drop a bird, make sure you can get the bird.
Yeah.
And if whether that's you personally going to chase it because you don't have a dog, or if it's like know what your dog's limitations are, like, oh, this water's too deep for me to go get it, is my dog going to go get it type of situation. So yeah, that was an interesting hunt. I certainly like you were saying, and like I was saying, there were so many birds there. It was just like so underwhelming when they would flare. Because that's like the long and short of it is just that they were flaring because we didn't have the right. The decoys were there. They wanted to come land, but then they literally would like see us, right? Even though we're standing we're in timber, but like right on the edge of the field, and so we're not necessarily that concealed. And so that's kind of a rookie mistake from my perspective, and certainly stuff that I don't think that if it were on like me or if it were on you, I don't think that we would have, especially if we were like taking people out and like trying to give them an experience. I don't think that's necessarily stuff those aren't mistakes that we would make. But certainly grateful for the hunt, right? That was if I'm not mistaken, that was a donated hunt. So certainly not ungrateful for the hunt, but definitely always learning lessons. And I think
definitely a life learning lesson. I mean, so we're going to church and the kids were talking about that hunt today. Like they think they tell the same story about that hunt every time we talk about people bring up Arkansas.
Yeah.
Myers, put your pants back on. So Myers, for the longest time, wouldn't wear pants underneath his waders.
Yeah.
He would just go tighty whities and waders.
Yeah.
So that morning, I think the guy drove a couple of the other guy we had and the kids. And I was like, hey, Myers, just hop in my truck and we'll go. And you come out in your waders. I'm like, hey, bud, like, well, we'll put our waders on out there, man. No one wants to wear those big hunky things. So he goes ready to take them off, and he's out there in his skivvies. And I look around, and my boys are like, what is he doing? I'm like, Myers, put your pants back on, bud.
So funny, man.
It's like when you're waking up Joe in the field, and he's the one that sleeps butt naked, and you open his sleep bag, like, hey, get up. Oh, come on, man. Like, really? Like, just get up, man. Let's go. We got to go.
Dude, I will say on that note, another good lesson, like know where you're hunting, right? Because out here in Central Texas, when we're hunting teal, like not a chance of wearing anything under any of it, right? It's probably 80 degrees and 100% humidity in September here.
Yeah.
So I personally, I hunt for comfort, right? A lot of the times I walk in, like a lot of times my buds and I out here, I'm talking about the pursuit. We're literally walking miles in. We're trying to get to where people aren't at, right? And like I said, there's a fair amount of pressure. So you gotta wear what's comfortable. And yeah, it's funny and not wearing any pants. But I've experimented with all kinds of waders, all different combinations of like what to wear underneath. And frankly, sometimes I'll just like wear normal clothes underneath waders that aren't on like uninsulated waders, right? Like, and I think it's a fantastic way to go instead of spending $1,000 on some high class waders that I'm gonna buy the shotgun, but I'm not gonna buy the waders. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean another good thing about you were talking about the Arkansas experiences, going to Max's and then going to R&T's.
Oh my gosh, so cool, man! That is it's just a cool place. Like Stuttgart is just a cool place for people like us. Max, of course, is such an institution in this industry. Obviously, and they do like the world duck calling competitions out there and stuff. So it's just a really cool place. And then R&T, going out there and watching them turn the calls is pretty awesome. And getting to experience those guys firsthand, like these, you guys both know you guys got legends on this show, right? So it's not. It's cool how accessible these people are. That's part of the sport, just passing it on and being accessible and really making yourself available. I mean, like that's my experience so far in this sport. It's such a cool community of people. Obviously, we've been talking about the past hour, like how I've gotten plugged in, and that's just kind of a testament to the sort of people that the sport attracts. So I love it, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as birds, and this is something we both kind of ask everybody, what's your favorite to shoot as far as like birds?
Gadwall.
Gadwall?
Glad you asked. Yeah. Gadwall, because I do like the pursuit, but when I do pursue so hard, I like it to be successful. And more often than not, if there's a gadwall in the air, it's going to come to me. That's my experience. I'm not the world's best on a call, and when I call, they come. It's awesome. I love hunting gadwall. If they could all be gadwall, that's fine.
Would you rather hunt divers or puddle ducks?
Probably puddle ducks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's tough, man. Honestly, like I think as far as gadwall, just gadwall is the number one. But between divers and puddles, like a duck's a duck to me. The only thing I will say is teal are tough, man.
Yeah. I definitely need to go down there this season and hit you up. I'll definitely hit you up, and I definitely need to go down there to teal hunt. I've never hunted the coast, not even Lycuson's not technically the coast, is it?
I mean, it was intercoastal.
Yeah, so
the word coast is in it.
Yeah.
Dude, let's do it, man. I'm telling you, like, come on down. We'll go down to the coast and do the teal thing and see what else nature can throw at us. There's a lot of opportunity down there, like I said. So you kind of get the full range of bird behavior down there. The teal don't really care about the decoys all that much down there. Right. So like you're going to shoot a lot of passing shots down on the coast with teal. If it's a gadwall and it's down there, you're going to probably decoy the gadwall. So you learn a lot. I think that's one thing that I've learned about like traveling to the different flyways, hunting in the different flyways, is that they're so different. Like everywhere you hunt, the birds behave so differently. And so you can see that even if you're like into hunting and you're watching some of these like hunting shows, it's like, dang, these guys are hunting mallards in a field. Like I've never done that. I've never hunted a duck on dry land, literally ever. I've never hunted dry land, right? I've always hunted over water. So it's interesting, that here we are, 7 years later, Joe, and there's still so much to learn.
Oh yeah, still just getting after it. And speaking of that, I know we're probably getting ready to wrap things up. One thing I do want to bring up, so we've discussed in I think it was a top 5 show a while back about Chris kind of let the cat out of the bag about a gear company that's up and coming. Yeah. Funny, I didn't even think about the two Joes. This is Joe Meyer is the partner in that gear company with me that we're getting ready to start. And, we talked about the mecca of waterfowl, going to maxes. On your half, how does seeing that kind of like influence what meaning you were trying to do to the waterfowl gear genre?
Like like being at maxes and
being at max, seeing all that,
yeah.
And what made you drive wanting to discuss starting a gear company?
Yeah, I think certainly like the deeper you get into it, right? And so obviously the experience of being at maxes and being in Arkansas and just understanding like how deep into the sport are you really going to be? This is probably true of all the best companies, best inventions, right? Like I work for a really innovative company, and they started innovating just based off of necessity at the time, back in the 80s in the computer industry. And that's really like the long and short of it. It's like necessity. What do I have? What I want? Do I have what I need to make this a successful hunt? And so, I feel like I hunt a lot. I probably hunt not this past year because I have newborn twins this past year, but in the couple seasons prior to that, probably hunted like 25 days, and that's not a lot compared to some people. Well, that's a ton compared to most people. And so hunting so much and hustling so hard, like I was saying that we do, you really come to understand like, oh, there's stuff that simply doesn't exist out there. And so really that's where I'm coming from. I've got a mind for product design, simply because there's a need in the sport that's not being met.
I think that's absolutely great too. I hope I told Joe Spears that once you guys actually get it going, I think it'd be a good idea. We'll go ahead and promote it through here, and also help other veterans try it out. Now, as far as the innovated idea, I don't want to get too in depth into it because I don't know if anybody's going to steal your idea or if the idea's already out there. I don't even know what the idea is. I don't know if you guys got like robotic blind bags. I don't know, but so what got you doing it? You had a blind bag that just did not fit your need.
I have generally, I think I speak for Joe and I, we have gear that doesn't do what we need it to do. If you don't have the money, like a lot of the listeners probably are in this boat, don't have the money to buy like those 4-wheel like little carts, that people are taking out to the field and et cetera. Like if you're on foot walking out to the blind or into the marsh or wherever you're hunting, like, dude, the gear that you need just doesn't necessarily exist. And other companies like certainly have tried, and the ideas that we have probably aren't the most original ideas. What are we trying to do? We're just trying to make what exists better. And we think we can do that. Like we've got ideas that like we're like, I don't see anybody doing what I think I need to do to make my 1-2 mile walk in and out like a comfortable experience. And I don't think that the point of the sport is necessarily to be comfortable, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely think that's good.
Yeah. And then for me, and my aspect of this gear company is, when I talked to Joe Meyer about it, definitely, coming from the military mindset of gear that works. Because especially being 82nd Airborne, we were jumping all the time. Yeah. And how much gear do we have to just fail? Like a rucksack that would just fall apart and drops on you. Like, well, now I got to carry all this crap.
Dude, we had
6 miles to the shoot parachute drop.
Yeah.
And stuff was happening in the field to me. Like I was buying, and I'm not going to say any brands or nothing, but I was buying high-end gear that, I liked. They're a good gear company, but it was failing within a season. And, I set a bag down. Now it's, filled with water. It wasn't keeping moisture out. Now I have, a box of Boss shells that, are rusted. I got to get rid of them, especially when we hunt in that brackish marsh. Yeah. So it was coming, longevity is where I was coming from. Longevity of equipment that's going to get, equipment that's going to protect my other equipment. equipment that's going to allow me to grind harder, to push out there. When we used to hunt in North Carolina, those beaver sloughs, or even where me and you were hunting, Chris, out, the day, we got a pack of blind out there, and the slip failed.
Yeah.
I mean, still, that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Gear that's gonna last, gear that you're gonna hand down to your grandkids. Kind of like an antique shotgun. It still, it still goes bang.
And I think that's it, especially with society now. I think look at stuff built then and then stuff built now. Like everything's plastic now. I mean, my grandfather had a Tonka truck or a truck or whatever that I still played with in the 90s, and I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say it's just one of those things, and I actually believe that that's actually really, really good idea, because like you said, in the military, there is gear that fails, and it does suck. I mean, there's stuff that fails in deployment, and you're walking, whatever 5-8 clicks back to whatever, wherever you're at, whether it be a fob or a cop or whatever. So so I definitely understand that. I bought stuff that I know that I didn't want to use this because I know it breaks. I've seen it in the past, so I'm going to buy something better that I'll feel more comfortable in deployment. And I'm a big believer in comfort. I was like that in deployment. As long as I was comfortable, I was good.
Yeah.
It's like socks, right? Like, what do I really want? If all the rest of me is soaking wet, I just want some dry socks, right? Like, I think, and so in the conversations that we've had around like the product, of course, there's two sides to it, right? Because we want to build a product that's really quality, and I think if it's going to be the kind of product that you hand down, it's probably going to be on the higher end, certainly. And so that's just something that's a conversation that we've had to have. We don't want to make things that are outside of most people's price range, right? We want to make things accessible, but we want to make things that work. And so I think like the gist is that, if I get it right the first time, and if I purchase it right the first time, then I'm not going to have to purchase it again, right? Because here I am, 6 different waders into my hunting career, and I could have just, for argument's sake, gone with the most expensive ones. Would they have held up for all these past 5 years? Like, do I know? No, I don't know, but I've never owned them. So there's like, we're gonna have to like change people's perspective on that a little bit, right? Because the tendency is to go get something that you didn't necessarily have to like save for, and totally get it. So I think our goal certainly is to put out a product that's accessible to people, but obviously like it's gonna come with the quality is gonna come with a certain price point. So of course, more to come on that stuff.
Yeah.
So before we actually end this, do we have maybe a date, or is that too soon?
Well, so the first
an idea that you guys gonna come out with.
So the first product is in this past season was my second year prototyping it. So that product we could put out like realistically probably quicker than the others, because we have so we're still kind of in the ideation phase for the second one. Certainly what it comes down to, the challenge is around material. For the second one. The first one is kind of like, it kind of doesn't matter as much. Like the material is the material. Let's get out. People can hustle with it. Get it into the hands of, like you were saying, some veterans, and see if they like it. So possibly some like 3rd generation prototypes for that come this next season.
Nice.
Probably, I don't know, Joe. I wouldn't be super optimistic about the second one being released. Maybe like a couple of the second product given to like a select few this coming season, if we can.
Yeah.
Nice. Definitely. I definitely be a good idea. I think people trying it out is a really good idea too. So I don't got anything. Joe, you got anything?
Hey, brother, appreciate you coming on. Like I said, next season's coming up. Sooner than we think. Teal season.
Get out.
We're going to get opener after opener Louisiana teal season, man. Like,
dessert.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for having me, guys. Like, I love what you guys are doing here. Obviously, very much appreciate you guys having me on and letting me talk about the dogs. I could do this all day. Wish we had more time.
Yeah, man.
But hey, I really thank you coming on the show. I'm definitely gonna go down there to get a hunt, and then maybe me, you, and Joe can meet up here and by Corsicana get that hunt in.
Let's do it.
We'll definitely do that. Joe,
Opening day teal season, Louisiana, boys.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down there.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Fire.
All right. Well, I guess all three of us will be there. But I want to thank Val and Honor for what they do. I want to thank everybody that's supporting us. If you want to keep supporting us, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, your favorite platform. Like any other day, y'all have a good one, and love Val and not fail.